How is everybody doing today? Welcome to another episode of Mike Motivation, where I give you straight up motivation, no cupcakes, no cookies, just straight up motivation. And from a person who's lived 41 years. So today's topic is, why is order so important? Why? Why is it best to do things a certain way in order to maximize your chances of success? Let me know in the comments, does order matter to you, or do you think you can just do anything any kind of way? In my 20s, I used to think that when I was younger, I thought I was invincible. I thought I had so much time. I could do it the way I wanted to do it, and I figure it out. But I'm telling you at 41 that there is an order, and we got to stop giving ourselves cop outs or rationalizing or trying to dodge accountability. Well, life happens, things happen, and that's true. But you can still have a strategy and a plan and fulfill and make that order that can set you up for success later in life. Because that's the key. Once you become an adult, when you graduate high school, your goal, especially for a man, women may be different, but for a man, is to get yourself to a point where you can live independently without having to borrow money, without having to depend on another person for your existence or maintaining your stability. Ask yourself this now. Can you, right now, the way the economy is, can you really live on your own and make with your own money that you make without having to borrow or, be helped? You can really take care of yourself in today's economy, 2024. So, order is very important to set up success. It is very important. I'm finna get into it a little bit, talk about it, give it to you straight up how I know it. May not sound the greatest. It's not here to make you feel good and bubbly. It's really to give you the facts, the stuff that nobody talks about. They tell you all the little glittery Disney stuff. Let me tell you about real life on the real life level, not this this social media Disney World kind of stuff people be saying, because a lot of people are being misled and they're thinking that this false sense of reality or, hope, you got to be smart about how you move or you're going to pay for it later. So if I can go back and talk to that 20-year-old Mike, what order would I tell him to think about going in order to increase his chances of success? If I can go back and talk to the 20-year-old me. Because the 20-year-old me, I don't even know what order I was even going. I think I was just living, just doing whatever I wanted to do. Definitely didn't have a strategy. Think the only strategy I had was to work the easiest jobs possible that paid me enough money just to move around and do what I need to do. But I didn't want to go to school. And the theme I think that I was hearing throughout, I think God was trying to talk to me. I just wasn't listening. I've had most managers, most people uh, that were my managers, people that knew me, like, man, you should go to school, man. You really smart dude. You should go to school. But for some reason, I just didn't want to go. And I think the reason was I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to sacrifice the fun. I didn't want to sacrifice the moments. And we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes, too. I got a slide for that one. But I'm going through this off the top from my own experiences. I don't have no script or nothing like that written down. I'm just telling you straight from experiences. And my experiences will make me now give it to you that way now, because a lot of times people want stuff, I don't want to say sugar coated, but it's pretty close. But life isn't like that all the time. Sometimes you got to understand something. They got to give it to you straight up, because the other way not working. Even people are giving to you the nice way, and it sometimes it's still not sticking. So I'm just gonna give it to you the way how I think, how I go about doing stuff, and the way that I do things is probably really uh a more of a conservative kind of way. Even though I'm not Republican or Democrat, I'm more of an independent thinker. But I don't think conservative is really tied to a political party. I think a conservative in your ways just to be more efficient. When I was younger, I think I was just more just like on the fly, just doing stuff, seeing what happened, learning. But efficiency, you will lose efficiency by doing that all the time, because a lot of times we go through trials and tribulations, even though you do learn, but that time it sets you back from the path that you on. So if I can go back and talk to the 20-year-old Mike, this is what I would say. The first thing you need to do, 20-year-old Mike, is develop your spiritual education. Why is spiritual education important? I will tell you from my experience, because I didn't take this route. I should have done it. A lot of times people don't want to do it because it challenges you to do things a certain way. It challenges you to move a certain way. It challenges you to operate a certain way. And a lot of people don't want to operate that way because they don't want to give up certain things that they want to do. That's what I went through. Mike at 20 went through. I like doing these things. I like hanging out. I like, talking to different women, all those little crazy stuff you do at 20, all those things. I didn't want to stop doing it, but it's going to cost you. It's good to learn about your spiritual education, because if you don't, it will set up a lot of things as you get older that you don't see, or you can get into something that is going to be hard to get out of. I've seen it a lot through my time, things I dealt with, I had to learn how to do, and you actually take on more things than you really need to. It helps you develop a filter of what you need to do and what you don't need to do. The earlier you learn it before you start trying to do things on your own, the better off you'll be, in my opinion. If you get spiritually educated and you receive it and you trust it, there are things that you won't do because you know that it's not going to benefit you or profit you in any way. And that's what I say. A lot of people buck against it, they don't trust it. I'm telling you, at 41, God's word in the Bible, if you read it for yourself, you'll realize it's a lot of things in there that helps you in life, but you have to read it and apply it and trust it and understand it. If you try to fight against it, you don't know where you can end up. It's like an instruction manual. Try to put something together without an instruction manual. It may end up being something that you didn't think it was gonna be. Like, wait a minute, I'm missing something. I missed that second step. So spiritual education, very important. Don't sleep on that. Very important to develop your mind, develop your discernment, develop your wisdom. You need this. Don't skip it. It could cost you a lot of time if you skip spiritual education. The next one, post education. When you graduate high school, when you transition from being a teen to an adult.
Am I right?
The strategy that you should have, I'm talking to Mike at 20. Any 20-year-old here, the strategy that you should have is, what can I educate? What education can I do that fits around my skill? What I'm good at? Am I good with my hands? Am I good at doing the same process over and over? Maybe I need to do an apprenticeship. Maybe I need to be an electrician. Maybe I need to be a plumber. Maybe I need to go do those things because they make just as much money. A master electrician, a master plumber, make just as much as a doctor do. But everything in post education, there is a time that you have to put in. Whether it's 4 years, 5 years, 8 years, you have to invest that time. So let's say if you start at 18, 19, 20, let's do 20 even number. Start at 20. You want to be, I think, an apprenticeship. You're looking at 4 to 5 years just to get to the journeyman level of an investment that you have to make. You want an undergrad, a bachelor's degree. That's 4 years. If you really go in and take 4 classes, usually you can get done before 4 years. It's all about how your execution on how you want to get this done. But you have to get this done second if you want to increase your chances. Your chances of success. So, bachelor's degree, 4 years. Journeyman, about 4 or 5 years, something like that. If you really want to go to the next level in your post education, you can get MBA or a graduate degree, a master's. That's another 2 years, 2.5 if you take probably 1 or 2 classes a semester. Or you can get a JD, which I'm thinking about getting, is another 3 to 4 years, depending if you go full time or part time. Then you can qualify to be an attorney if you pass the bar. Or it's like a PhD, but it's in law. You can also do leadership positions. You can do all kind of things. However, you have to know that there's a time investment. That's why it's best to do it when you're young. You have all the energy. You're still kind of got the education from high school to develop that discipline to do your homework. You have a lot of the tools to succeed if you will apply it, because as you get older, it gets harder and harder to really try to lock in on education, especially if you got a family, you're married, have a family. Those things starting to take up that real estate in your mind as far as things to think about, and you have to make those decisions. Do I do homework, or do I got to spend time with my family? And after I spend time with my family, I am tired, I'm sleepy. Do I want to do my homework, or do I want to go to sleep? You have to make those kind of decisions as you get older. Trust me, as a dude at 41 that's going to school, I'm telling you, it becomes tougher and more of a challenge than if I would have just done this when I was younger. So after you do your post education, you do your spiritual education, do your post education, you get that done. Now that you're done with your education, now you develop your career development. If you think that this is the wrong order, let me know in the comments. I'm listening. I'm telling you from 40, if you do it in this way, I'm telling you, you will increase your chances. Notice there is no gap year in here. Don't fall for this stuff. I'm telling you, anything can happen within a year. So many things can happen within a year that can throw you off of this path. But if you really put in the work, telling you, you will get there quicker than what you think. It'll be so efficient. You be like, wow. Career development. After you get your education, let's say if you get your education in journeyman electrician, you get out of there, you take the exam to be a journeyman electrician, you pass. Now you go work for an electric company, or you might mess around and be an entrepreneur, work for yourself. Now you're developing your career. You don't have to worry about going back for classes unless it's a master level, but the entry to mid level, you're done with that part of the education. It's just career now. Now you can focus on opportunities. You can focus on making the money. You can focus on getting the bag. And after you develop your career, you get solidified in that. You find a spouse that's compatible to who you are, that y'all can work together, and you start a courtship. You do a vetting. You make sure, is this the person that I can build a marriage with? We can build a solid marriage foundation based on having our spiritual education over the years. If you don't spiritually educate yourself about you as an individual, learning how to forgive, learning how to treat somebody other than yourself, learning how to love yourself even through the mistakes that you make, love yourself, forgive yourself, and learning how to repent and develop that relationship with God. If you don't learn those things before you get married, marriage is going to challenge you every time you look up. You have to be in tune with your spiritual education. You got to be in tune with God and His Son, or whoever you worship. I'm saying for me, it's God and His Son, Jesus Christ. You got to be in tune because marriage will challenge you. Being with another person and not understanding how to deal with a person other than yourself. Everybody does not think like you. Everybody doesn't operate like you. You may use strawberry jam on your toast. This person may use grape jelly. And if that is an issue for you, marriage is going to be tough for you. So with that being said, after you develop your career, you go to courtship, you go into marriage, because you got all those things done. Now you're building your marriage. You're learning how to live with each other. You're learning how to operate as one, learning to be on the same page, even though you're different, but it can happen. After you do that, you work on that. Now you start getting into family development. So much easier if you got all those things done. You got the spiritual education, your post education, career development, got your marriage started in the most efficient way because you both want to have that spiritual education, marriage counseling, all those things. Now you get into family development. You can have a solid foundation to raise your family on. A lot of times, growing up in the inner city, whether people want to talk about it or not, that last little piece, family development, trip up a lot of people. It trip up a lot of people. And you got a lot of kids growing up in some tough family development situations. Really tough. But I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do the crazy things. Even if you have a rough family upbringing, you don't have to do crime. You don't have to break the law. There are things out there, and even if you can't get to it, you can find ways. You got to be creative in your thinking. We're going to talk about this on the podcast, but more of a podcast kind of thing. But you can overcome rough family situations. And there's a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of spiritual education that you have to learn in order to overcome those things. That's a whole nother topic within itself. So what happens when you skip or ignore steps? What happens is it sets you back on time. If you don't get your spiritual education and understand what it is to humble yourself and understand there's different seasons that you're going to have to go through, to understand that you're going to endure, there are going to be sufferings in life. That's just how the game go. If you don't get there, when you start going to school, you won't have the endurance. Your spiritual will be so tested. You won't have the resilience to finish because you'll feel like it's too much, it's overwhelming. That's why it's good to build your spiritual education. It sets up a lot of the things going forward. It gives you that strength, that spiritual strength going forward that is hard to break you because you've built the strength up in your spirit. If you skip post education,
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
if you skip post education and you go right into career development, what you're gonna find, because this is what I did, I'm telling you from experience, you're gonna find out that you're gonna hit that ceiling real fast of I'm not making enough money. We talked about this on the podcast, I think the other day. 31,000. It says the median income in Arkansas is 31,000. That means that's not the minimum. That means it's not the max. That means it's like right there in the middle, the average. That means out of 10 people, 5 of them, close to 6, is making the median income. 31,000 was the median income. If you skip post education, it's going to take you longer. It's a longer path to get to the kind of income that not only can you be stable and live a life of stability on, where you can pay your bills and have enough left over to do other things, but you'll have a better chance at getting to an income where, like when you get your post education, you kind of skip those corporate ladders, those corporate steps, because you're gaining experience plus education. So you probably, instead of trying to go up the ladder every step, you may skip 2 or 3 steps based on skill and experience and education. If you skip marriage and just go right into family development, that's going to be tough because most of the time, if you don't have a commitment, the chances of either spouse staying around is very rare. There are people that do it, but I would recommend 2 people. That's why you need spiritual education, because if you don't have the spiritual education, what I'm saying to you is probably gonna sound like that I don't want to do that. But brothers, if you don't want the the odds of you being on child support high, do it in the right order. Get committed, get married, then develop your family. But if you skip that step, you skip marriage and just start developing a family, it may not be the family what you think it is. So don't skip steps. It's not worth it. I'm telling you from experience, it's not worth it. That's why I'm going to school now at 41, about to graduate. in December, undergrad, and I am going to work on my graduate slash JD path. That's what I'll be working on next. I'm gonna try to vlog that on this channel too as well. So let me know what you think about that in the comments. Next slide. We about two more. We out of here. How important time gets when you grow in age. It gets very important. You realize I don't have time for a lot of things that I had time for when I was younger. I don't have time for the foolishness. I just don't have time to waste on it. I don't have time to still work entry level jobs. I just don't have time for that. Now, you may have time for that. I'm telling you from my experience, as you start growing older, you realize there is more money to get in order to have that flexibility, in order to take care of bills, family, leisure activities. But if you skip these steps and you mess around and get to 30 and you didn't get your post education, you didn't work on your spiritual education, you didn't get your post education, it's going to be hard to develop a career that you want because you're going to always be bound by limitations. And you're going to feel like time is of an essence. But if you get married, develop a family, but you skipped the spiritual education and post education, you're going to find yourself playing catch up, trying to get up to speed. The reason why post education is better to do when you're young is a lot of the classes, and a lot of those classes are in the daytime. And when you start having kids and your priorities change, you don't have a lot of free time to invest like you want to. Everything starts getting structured and scheduled out based on the things that you add to your responsibilities. That's why when you're young, you don't have no responsibilities. That's why people tell you from a spiritual standpoint, don't or wait to have kids until you get married, because you have the time now to work on your spiritual education, work on your post education, set up your career. So when you get to the point of having kids, all of that's out the way, everything's set up. You got career development, you got maternity leave, you got a husband, he's working, he's solid, got his spiritual education, post education. He can hold it down while you on maternal leave. And when you come back, y'all can build wealth together as a unit. It's happening right now. People don't talk about this all the time because a lot of times when you're really building wealth and you've been married for, umpteen years, you see this stuff on social media, you almost laugh at it because you don't know that a lot of people are talking about marriage, but they're not married. Or they went into marriage without being spiritually educated. And if you're not spiritually educated, when life comes at you in marriage, you're not going to know how to handle it because of the spiritual education is very low. Some things, what am I saying? Academic education not gonna solve. You gotta have the spiritual aspect of your life, learning how to forgive, learning how to discern, learning how to have wisdom, learning how to treat people that is not you. You gotta learn those things.
Back to life, back to reality.
Now, I learned this from being 40. Success is sacrifice and process. Sacrifice and process. A lot of times you're not going to be able to do what everybody else is doing. Especially if you skip steps and you got to get back on this path. It's going to take even more sacrifice because if you would have done it when you was younger, it would have been less of a sacrifice that you have to do because you already done it on the front end. But if you don't sacrifice on the front end of the process, you're gonna sacrifice on the back end. I'm telling you from somebody who going to school at 41. When I started going back to school, I think it was during COVID, and I started going back to school, I had to really lock in up here in my head. And I thank my wife for supporting me and my kids for supporting me for going back to school. And I will say this to any woman. If you're married to a man and he's trying to uh, up his value by going to school, going to apprenticeship, if he ups his value, you're going to win. You're going to get everything that he can come across because this is your husband. So don't stifle, don't delay your husband if he's trying to better himself. Every man should want to better themselves. I'm going to tell you my thing, my process is I want to be better every year. I don't want to be the same. Used to say that crazy stuff when I was younger, man. I'm going to always be the same OG. Nah, man. You want to get better every year. You want to go incrementally go grow throughout the year and get better every year.
Am I right?
Don't allow yourself to go stagnant and just go linear. You want to go vertical, north. That's the best way as regular people. I'm not a celebrity, I'm not an entertainer. I'm just telling you as a regular, everyday working person. You want to get better every year, whether it's better with your skill set, whether it's better with your education, your communication, or your mindset. You want to get better. And life is about learning. Learn something new every day, whether it's about yourself or how you deal with somebody else. Learn something new every day because that's life. Going to come at you with something that you don't know. But the best way to understand is learn how to figure stuff out and learn how to learn from other people's process. Look at some of these people processes that you think you field you want to go in. How did they get there? You can go on LinkedIn and see a person's work path. How did they get to where they got to in their education? The process. Like I just talked about earlier, education. Spiritual education is a lifelong process. You're always going to learn about yourself from a spiritual standpoint, what you're made of, what you don't do, or what you do. And I think learning how to battle with your own self. We all deal with internal battles that we deal with. Everybody has their side that they're fighting against, whether it's their curiosity side, whether it's some people have addictive personalities. There's a dark side that everybody has to fight with. It's called this flesh. Everybody has to fight against that. Everybody's fight is different, but we all have one. But when you learn how to sacrifice and trust the process, you will start to turn their mindset, and instead of giving into it, you learn how to counter it, how to fight. Sometimes you can be your own worst enemy. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You can be your own worst enemy.
To life, back to reality. Keep on moving, don't stop, love.
The last slide, and I'm about this thing. Trust the process. Stay on the path and minimize the missteps through planning and strategy. When you trust the process, you understand that even though life's going to come at me in different ways, I cannot get off this path because this is a path that's going to increase my chances of success. If you trust the spiritual education process, it's a lifelong process, but it's for my good and not my bad. And I may come up on some things that I want to do, but because my spiritual education in the filter, it tells me that this is not going to benefit me, it's not going to profit me. Just because I can do it don't mean that I have to do it. You have to learn it. Just because I can do it don't mean that I have to do it. Stay on the path. If you get on the educational path, stay on it. You want to be a doctor, could be a 10-year path. Stay on the path. Develop the discipline. Develop the endurance. You can do it. Don't listen to people and say, girl, just stop. Or boy, just stop. Life happens. That's a cop-out. I'm telling you, stay on the path. You'll appreciate it when you get done. Telling you from experience. Minimize missteps through planning and strategy. That's what I would tell that 20-year-old Mike. You got to sit down. You got to write it out. Look at it. Pray over it. Execute it. You'll minimize the missteps because this is not what the plan is showing me to do. What I did when I was younger, I'd always start on something, I'd veer off and go another direction. Then you start from zero. But when I got into IT, I stayed with it. Had an older cat, shout out to Willie. I think he lived in Texas. When I was working at the ISP place, he said, man, now that you in IT, just stay in IT and grow in IT. Just stay with it. Get the years of experience and just stay with it. Some of the best advice I ever got on the career development side. Find a field that fits your personality and stay in that field. Don't veer from it. If you don't know what your personality is, you need to find that out. And if you can find it out, the earlier you can find it out, the better things start to fall in place. But you have to understand those simple like traits, like if you're an introvert, are you an extrovert? You good with your hands? Are you good at thinking, solving problems, logical? What are you good at? What are you naturally good at? So with that being said, thanks for watching Mike Motivation, where I give you straight up motivation. No cookies, no cupcakes, just straight motivation. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments. Is order very important to set up success? I think it is. This is Mike. I'm signing out. Thanks for watching.